Hello everyone. In this video, let's discuss one of the most pressing issues in India today, which is rising inflation and cost of living, more from an economic perspective. Inflation is one of the most pressing economic challenges India faces today, and colloquially, it can be defined as the sustained rise in the general price level of goods and services. And we can mention that inflation directly erodes purchasing power and affects economic stability. So, in this video, I am looking to explore the economic dimensions of the rising inflation in India, its measurement, causes, impacts, and the policy and responses that are undertaken to control it from the government's end. So, in India, inflation is primarily measured through two indices, as we know the consumer price index and the wholesale price index, which is the CPI and the WPI. CPI reflects retail prices paid by the customers, while WPI tracks wholesale market prices. And the Reserve Bank of India focuses on CPI inflation with a target of 4% plus or minus 2%, which we're already aware of. However, in the recent years, inflation has often breached the upper tolerance level of 6%, especially in food and fuel industries. Now, when we look at the causes of inflation in India, we can state that one of the major factor is demand pull inflation. So it's basically when aggregate demand rises faster than aggregate supply, prices increase. For example, urban income growth has increased demand for food and housing, straining supply. Similarly, the next thing would be cost push inflation, which is basically rising input costs such as fuels, fertilizers, wages. These are all live examples. The production costs are pushed up, which are then passed on to the customers. Thirdly, imported inflation. Now, since India is heavily dependent on crude oil imports, global prices hikes and the geopolitical conflicts like the Russia-Ukraine war, it directly raises domestic inflation. And finally, another factor could be the structural factors, inefficiencies in agricultural supply chains, or inadequate cold storage or logistics, bottleneck issues, which mean that even small supply shocks can cause sharp spikes in food prices. This is one example. Now, when we look into the economic impact, inflation reduces the purchasing power of money, which lowers real income. Households, especially low income groups, are disproportionately affected since a larger share of their expenditure goes to essentials like food. For the economy, inflation creates uncertainty, it discourages savings, and increases inequality. If wages do not keep pace with prices, real wages fall, leading to reducing living standards. Now, persistent inflation can also deter investment and slow long term economic growth, basically. Now, if we take a look into the policy responses that have been created or undertaken, the Reserve Bank of India uses monetary policies like we know to manage inflation, mainly through changes in the repo rate. Rising interest rates reduces borrowing and curbs demand, which helps to cool inflation. Now, the government also uses fiscal measures such as reducing excise duties on fuel, providing subsidies, and releasing buffer food stocks. However, long term solutions lie in improving agricultural productivity, investing more on infrastructure, and reducing dependence on volatile imports like crude oil. To conclude, inflation is not just a temporary rise in price, it reflects deeper structural and political challenges in the economy. Controlling inflation is essential not only for protecting household budgets but also for ensuring macroeconomic stability, and a balanced approach between monetary tightening, fiscal support, and long term structural reforms is very important and key to making sustainable growth and inclusivity. Thank you.